Hello!
Hi.
Welcome to The Vertical. You guys, we're so excited. This is season 6 premiere. I can't believe we've been doing Tip Tuesday, Wellness Wednesday, and now The Vertical. I'm super excited to kind of kick off season 6. Guys, we have a new host. Her name is
Hello.
Olga. We're so excited for you to kind of see how this develops over the years. Hopefully you can hear us because this is the first time I'm using a microphone.
We'll see. We'll see.
Hopefully it's not. If you can't hear us, show us some love in the comments and I will try to read from about 6 feet away. Here we go. We're going to be going through a few updates that Vertical Ledge has. As you can tell, we have just been all over the place. We had our fall launch that was very successful. We're super stoked. Thank you guys. We had one of our best selling months ever in August and now September, which is really exciting. We couldn't have done it without your guys' support. All of that to say, we have more stuff coming out in October. We've got, we got a bistro table. No, not bistro.
Market table, DCM.
Market table 2.0.
Yes.
DCM and a DCM panel, which is really cool. If you guys have orders from us, you will see the new packaging inserts. They have some really cool new things that you can see. What's really awesome about the DCM insert panel is that you can put it into the RCH, the Round Collection half, so the half arch 2 panel. You can extend it. It makes a really cool new modern shape. It gives it a little bit different from the DCM and the arch, so like right in the middle. Really excited about that. Stay tuned to the very end to get some insight on the second sale that we have going on. So without further ado, Olga is going to introduce herself.
Hi guys, I am Olga. I've been with Vertical Ledge part-time since 2020.
Yes.
And I'm officially coming on full-time, so I'm super excited. It's been a fun journey and I'm excited to do more and get to know you guys better.
Yes, our audience is fun. They give a lot of really fun feedback. Well, hey, we're going to start the show off every Wednesday right around 2 p.m. And we're going to shout out a maker that we're just really loving and enjoying. We have some really beautiful mugs here today. You guys check out these mugs. They come in 3 different sizes. They are a matte color. They are from Dust and Form. Now, I've been eyeing these for props for Vertical Edge for a long time. So we're really excited to have them in the studio. You'll see them on our stand soon for the holiday stuff. Check her out, Dust and Form. She's on Brielle Macbeth Revito is doing some really cool structural modern pieces. I cannot afford her lamp, but I really like it. One of these days I will get it. Yes, really cool. Check them out at Dust and Form. Okay, so let's get started. Today we're going to talk about personally the Vertical Edge experience transitioning from we started on Etsy back in late 2018, moved into Squarespace in the December of 2020, and then moved to Shopify this year, 2022, in May. We started that process in March after some rough bumps and scaling issues. So we're really excited. We're going to give you a little bit of history about each platform, why each platform was made, how they lived up to our expectations and then failed us at times, and what's the process like. Hopefully you guys can get some insight. If I know a lot of you are on Etsy, a lot of you guys are on Shopify, and a handful of you are on like Squarespace or Wix or another platform such as that. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right.
Okay, so we started on Etsy, and Etsy was founded by
Rob Kalin and a group of other guys, but he was the main founder. He's a carpenter, photographer, and painter. So he just wanted a platform to sell what he made. And a big part of his vision when he started the company was putting more energy into helping the crafter community and promoting the lifestyle of buying handmade goods. And he just wasn't too focused on making the sales. He just wanted a platform for handmade crafters.
which is why a lot of us, when we start our handicraft business, we think, oh, we could start on Etsy. It'd be fun. That's what they're made for. That's what they're there for. And so when we started on Etsy, it was kind of like we had one stand, right? I should have brought it in here. I have it. It's the plane. It's little 3-inch shelves.
Little
Who
guy.
needs 3-inch shelves anymore? And it was a basic tiered wood stand. And we went to our first market. I was selling some cosmetic items, and I was like, really wanted a modern display, which was like impossible to find back in 2018. And I was just doing like small high school holiday markets, just something fun to do while Andre was deep into his other business. And I was like, okay, I was setting up, you guys know the story, and a bunch of people came over and they're like, where did you buy this stand? I want it. I need that. It's so simple and easy. And I was like, oh, I could definitely put this on Etsy. We could definitely sell this.
Yeah.
We could do this, but I didn't know what it would be. And to be quite honest, I had no intention of bringing it to where it is today. It just didn't seem like it was going to happen. And quite honestly, I didn't care. I was like, whatever, we'll just put this online and see what happens. We put it online and we saw what happens, and we kept running with it. So that first year was really exciting because we'd get like a few orders here and there. We saved up enough to like buy our first like non-used couch. It was really cool. It was really exciting purchase, but it was expensive for a young couple at the time. And so it was just fun. And so what we did there is we just tested our market. I look back on Etsy and I go, it showed us that this could be more than what we thought it could be. Definitely not what we think it is now, but more. And so we kind of started to get a little bit frustrated at Etsy because at the end of the year, when we started to do our taxes, I was like, wow, we kind of paid a lot in fees to sell our items. And I was pretty disappointed. And when I looked at the analytics, so what you'll hear me say is oftentimes like go towards the numbers that are working for you.
Yeah.
Well, we went towards the analytics and I was looking at it, and like 90% of our traffic was direct from Pinterest. Yeah. Not from Etsy. Etsy wasn't bringing us any traffic. And I was like, wow, I'm paying these guys not only a lot in fees, but a lot in advertising, a lot in just like having my stuff online. They take a huge percentage, and I'm the one bringing in the business. I think that shows me, the numbers pointed me to the fact that like we could have our own website. We don't necessarily need Etsy to do that. Yeah. And so that's kind of where we started to move into a new website platform. Now, we were looking at Wix. A lot of you guys won't know that from that first interview that we did when we talked about our transition from Etsy to Squarespace. But we did look at Wix, and it just was not e-commerce friendly. It seemed very clunky and chunky. And I did a few websites. Andre and I have we had another company. It was a kids' toy company. And we did it on Wix, and we were just really unhappy with it. So, and then we ended up moving to Etsy from that one. So this time from Etsy, we kind of transitioned over. But before we talk about moving over to Squarespace, we want to give a little bit of insight to what our research showed as far as like why Etsy started to fail handmade makers and our really cool handicraft ecosystem.
Right. So Etsy, starting out, the founder of Etsy, Rob Kalin, really just wanted to promote this lifestyle of buying handmade goods, not, Walmart, things like that. Mm-hmm. He wanted to highlight like people's work that they put in themselves. And Etsy started growing really fast at a really fast rate. And what happens when a company grows, they sell it and investors come in and they kind of take over, and there's a different corporate environment. And so Etsy's environment really started to change after one of the most recent corporate takeovers, actually. And they kind of started going downhill. And it was interesting because I was looking at my research, and a lot of makers, founders of companies, they think like mission first. What is the mission of this company? What is the mission that we're promoting? It's the why. Start with the why, not the what. But once you lose sight of the why and you're focused on the bottom line, just making sales, then you kind of lose that spark that draws people in. And so I think what happened with Etsy with the corporate takeover is that they lost their sense of why. And that focus on making the bottom line, making money is at the expense of the makers. So when you're trying to make the bottom line, when you're trying to impress the investors, it's at the expense of the makers because you're charging them more fees. You're putting more strain on the makers themselves, and that's running them out of business because they can't afford to pay all these fees. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, that's really interesting because as we grow Vertical Edge, we've had a lot of insight into what happens when you lose sight of the why and you get more focused on the profit over the people. And it is like when you're thinking about your company and why you started, a lot of us here that are listening are part of the handicraft market, right? It's just you and you're on your own. You might have a few people on the side that are helping you. But for the most part, you're not thinking about scaling into the billions or hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's kind of what seems like happened to Etsy. And we've all kind of seen this on the forefront. There's a lot of really bad reviews, a lot of people that just get ripped off. They're allowing makers from China who are industrial, like huge manufacturing plants. I know I bought this sign and I thought it says that the maker is in Ohio, but it actually shipped from China. And I was really frustrated because I thought that I was supporting a small like husband and wife because that's what they put on their thing.
Right.
And maybe that's true to a degree back in China. Maybe it's just her and her husband. But I don't know. And it was just frustrating because it seems like there was a front on all of that. And it's interesting to kind of see how that plays out. And the fees have significantly grown.
I think looking at the stats, the starting fees are 6.5%. That's what they advertise. But it actually, when you go through the whole process and you actually have your store running and all these shipping fees and all this, it goes up to 25%. So that's just the base percentage, 6.5%. But it goes up way higher than that. And people barely can make a profit, especially if you're just working by yourself, making these things yourself. You're losing a lot of money.
Yeah. Most of us aren't upcharging that much to begin with. So to have to cover that is a lot. And it can deter people from buying on Etsy. One of the other things that you brought up earlier was like how when you buy from Etsy, you talk about how you bought from Etsy. You don't talk about how you bought from Vertical Edge on Etsy. And so you're promoting Etsy as somebody on Etsy. And you're not necessarily building that brand awareness.
There's no loyalty. You're not building loyalty because people are going on Etsy and they're like, oh, I bought this on Etsy. They don't really remember your name. They don't really remember who you are. And that's why it's like, if you are on Etsy and that's what you choose to host your store on, that's where your store is being hosted. It's not, you don't actually have ownership of it. Etsy calls all the shots. They regulate things. They control who gets to return to your shop or not. You don't really have a say in if someone decides to return your product. You don't have a say in that. It's all on Etsy. So it's really like you have to have very clear branding and marketing if you choose to stay on Etsy. Otherwise, you'll get lost in all the noise because all the niches on Etsy are very crowded. So you don't really stand out.
Yeah. And they tried to offer, or they are offering like websites, but again, it's at upcharge and more fees. And so pros and cons of Etsy. We love Etsy for the ability to test, to see if your product has a fit in the market without being a lot of upfront cost, if anything at all. I loved how I could work my full-time job and have something like Etsy on the side. It didn't feel like it was too much.
Yeah.
You know, like I could handle it. And it proved that like the more sales that we got, it got to the point where like I needed to take Vertical Edge full time. And that's when we transitioned and we were like, okay, if we're going to do this full time, we really got to get serious. It's like time to make an upgrade, which is what the first time that we hired Karina to do our product photography. We rented out a studio. We got really serious about the branding and the props and what we wanted Vertical Edge to look like and what in our brand and theme and identity. And so that was like a really fun way to transition. And it felt more like a class project than it did like, you know, setting up a business for the future. So we moved to Squarespace. And you might wonder, like, why did we move to Squarespace? Well, this is a great transition because the founders of Squarespace were actually the exact same mindset that I was thinking about when I needed to transition. Shopify felt like a little bit too much for me. And it felt like a huge learning curve. And to be quite honest and frank, I needed something quick and fast. I knew I could bring in the traffic. I knew I could bring in the sales. I didn't have a lot of time or money, but I had a lot of energy to put towards building out Squarespace.
Yeah, it's true. Anthony Casalino, who's the founder of Squarespace, he actually built the company by himself, solo, while he was in college. And it's funny because he wanted just a better website for himself, because all the options available at the time, it was they weren't very design centered, they weren't customizable, and so he wanted something where it'd be like a nice design, sleek and modern, but also customizable. And so he just made his own program. And people were actually interested in. They're like, hey, I'll actually pay you if you let me use your tools. And so he built the company himself all the way until he was making like 10 million in revenue by himself, until he started expanding. So that was very interesting for me. And so I think one of like the main things of Squarespace, what they're known for is design. It's this quote basically sums it up. It's a platform that encourages you to pick a template, make a few design tweaks, add some content, and hit the publish site button. It's that easy.
Which is exactly what we needed and what I liked. It was like plug and play. It didn't, knowing what Shopify is that I know it is today, like there's totally benefits, but at the time I'm really, really grateful that I stuck with Squarespace and I didn't struggle and like eat myself away in the chaos that is Shopify, because Squarespace made it super simple, super easy. I could just do it. Boom. Get it out. And I tweaked the website for 2 years. It worked really, really well for 2 years. We stayed on Squarespace. We didn't really have a lot of issues with it. It worked well in the sense of it was very functional from the aspect of like, I knew how to work it. Andre could figure out how to work it. We had a few people come in from Fiverr to do like a few back-end codes for like Pinterest, because at the time you couldn't inject code into certain pages. You had to go into the back end, and I was super, super nervous about doing that. So that's what kind of scared me from the Squarespace end, but there's not a lot. I mean, it's literally like now they have it down where you just inject the code into the page headers. And so that's really easy. They had good analytics for the most part. They didn't have anything that I didn't need, which I think goes a long way when you're building your business. Sometimes you can get lost in like sales attribution and customer behavior and what are they doing on your website and how many times are they clicking and speed and blah, blah. Like I literally, that's like, sometimes it doesn't matter. It's like you're bringing in traffic, you're bringing in sales, you know where the traffic originated from. You can start looking at customer behavior and see where they stop scrolling on your page. And that's about all you need to know to be able to tweak and refine your website. Squarespace was good because I think it wasn't too much while being just enough.
Right.
And I didn't realize what we were missing until it came up in the process. For example, we needed to connect some back-end ads code, and we weren't able to do that on Squarespace as easily. It was going to cost us a lot of money to have somebody else come in and do it. We couldn't get customer reviews, which was kind of frustrating because that's like super important in like in a business to have reviews to see what other people are saying about your product. The other thing for me with Squarespace was I felt like I stood out. Like my shop didn't look like everybody else's shop. We had a lot of robust offerings. It was very easy to make products and update products. It felt easy to make it look good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's what it's about. Squarespace. Like, you'll have a beautiful website.
yeah, and you will. I think it's great for people that sell like art and a limited number of SKUs with no variants and no add-ons and no upsells. So, for example, if you sell a cup and you have 3 sizes, that is very easy to offer on Squarespace. Now, if you have this cup in 5 different colors and 40 different sizes, it's going to get a little bit hectic on Squarespace. You're going to be limited pretty quickly, and you're not going to want to deal with the back end like analytics of that.
Yeah.
It's just insane. When did Squarespace stop working for us? So if you guys have been following Vertical Ledge, we are very transparent, and there's at the beginning of this year, I like to refer to it as the sandpaper stage. A lot of refining, a lot of things going not the way that we wanted to. We had the most customer service emails I've ever thought of having in January of 2022. January being what's supposed to be a slow month was actually a very busy month for us because we had like 200 customer service emails. And it was just me at the time. And I was like, well, why do we have some emails? And it was all questions related to, I can't find this. I need this. I don't understand what this is. Do you offer this? Where is this? How can I find this? What's this dimension and what's this size? And even though all of that felt clear to me to find on the website, it was incredibly infuriating for our customer.
Yeah.
They came on and it felt as if they couldn't find what they were looking for. And that sucked. And they couldn't find the information that they wanted. And they couldn't find reviews, and they didn't have inspiration, and there was no spot for them to be like a part of a customer loyalty. There was nothing like, there wasn't a product quiz for them to be able to figure out what stand works for me, because you guys have 500 options, like which one is the one for me. And so we tried to fix it. I tried really hard in February this month. We relaunched the website. I did a ton of tweaks. I put in a bunch of crazy things. We did a product guide that, let me tell you, it was really hard to make look good on a landing page because there was just so many products and so many offerings and so many variants. We tried to categorize things out with like product tags, but their drop-down menus weren't working the way that it was supposed to. We got to a point where I was like, we need something better, and we're going to have to bite the bullet and invest in something and do it quickly because we had an audience and we didn't want to lose them. It was pretty scary to remake a new website when you know the current website sucks and it's like totally failing your audience. And so that was challenging. I was really nervous about transitioning for a few reasons. One, I was like, well, what if this doesn't work? Like, what if the new website isn't any better than the current website? And then 2, I was like, well, what if everything transfers over and it doesn't work? Because I don't know how to work Shopify. I was really nervous. As the other reason, like, this is the first time we actually hired somebody to do our website. Before, we did Etsy by ourselves, we did Squarespace by ourselves, and now it was like, okay, let's do Shopify. Let's give Shopify a chance because they have everything that we need. I talked to about 4 different firms that were here in the US, women-owned businesses, very small businesses. I wanted to work with somebody who was in the area that I also worked in, small businesses. And what we found was Ashley from Basis. They're a Wonder Jam family of businesses. They do a lot of different things. They actually just opened up, I saw a product photography service, which was really cool. Another part of they're called Wonder Jam, and they've got all these different segments of businesses that are all headed by individuals, which I think is really cool. One being Basis, who does a ton of different websites. Now, I found them because while I was doing my website research and like, what is it that we want our website to look like? How do we want it to function? How do we want the cart to look specifically and the upsells? How do we want the bundling to work? We found that through Primarily Pure, which is a company based down in LA. They do really awesome deodorant and facial care. Definitely check them out. I love them. I've been using their deodorant for years. It hasn't like magically stopped working, which thank goodness. We've all been there and done that. And so I really liked how the bundling on their website worked. And I was like, okay, let's figure out if we can do this. And at the bottom of their website, it's designed by Basis with a hyperlink. And I was like, oh, thank the Lord's above.
Yes.
So I reached out to them. We got a quote. And then we kind of started on the Shopify journey.
Shopify. So unlike a lot of companies, Shopify was incentivized not just to sell their product to customers, but also to help customers become more successful on the platform. So the Shopify founders, one of which is Tobias Lutke, he's German. So him and a couple of friends, they actually started off because they wanted to sell snowboards. They were really into snowboarding. They wanted to sell snowboards. And so they're like, okay, let's make an online website and sell snowboards from other platforms, from other like companies. And they're like, like all the tools available, they're just not working for us. Like there must be an easier way to sell. There has to be something more efficient than this. And so they actually moved away from, having their own shop to creating a platform that can host other shops and to make shops successful online and make them easy for other merchants to use. Because like a lot of companies, especially in the early 2000s, were starting off, with their own stores. E-commerce is just a new thing. And so, they figured out a way to make e-commerce accessible to a lot of merchants, and they host so many now, like millions and millions. But their vision was just to create a way for it to be efficient to sell online. And so they help their users become better merchants. And that's the biggest reason that they've grown where they are today, because if their merchants are successful, they're successful. If people are using their tools, if people are using Shopify to host their websites, they're becoming successful because they're helping you become successful. So,
which sounds a lot like the behind the scenes motto of Vertical Edge.
Yeah, exactly.
We make you guys look good and you make us look good.
Exactly. That's how it works. It's a relationship. They're not just trying to make the bottom line. They want you to excel at where you're at. So it's pretty cool to look at the history there and see how far they've come, because they're like worth around 40 billion today. That is just crazy. And it started off with just a couple of guys trying to sell snowboards. So yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, we all have so many stories like that where we just started with something small and it turned into something we never thought it would be, but by going one step at a time, which is one of the key pillars and foundations of Vertical Edge, is being pivotable and 0 to 1, right? Can you make the first step forward? Can you take one step towards improvement? In which this entire story of transitioning from Etsy to Squarespace to Shopify has really done that. So when we went to move into Shopify, I felt like I was way in over my head. I knew that there was all these third-party integrations and awesome offerings and like all of these really cool plugins. And I was like, I'm going to break it. 100%. I am going to break it. And I ended up breaking the website at one point in August. We will get to that. But it was very much, we paid someone, and we paid about $10,000. It was a very hefty investment. It was one that I dug my heels in. I didn't want to pay, but I knew that we were at a point in the business where if we didn't pivot and we didn't pivot quickly, we were going to lose a lot of momentum. And an object in motion stays in motion. We were a big snowball rolling down categorically big for us, right? In our circumstance. And so I was like, it's time to make this big step. The biggest driver for me was like, I know that we have a lot to upsell to our customers. We don't just make stands anymore. We make all of the add-ons for the stands, and our customers weren't finding those things. And so what ended up being somebody that come to our site and buy one thing, they'd walk away and then they'd come back a couple months later and buy something else. And then they'd realize that we had a bag. And it was like, I was like, I think we can close this gap. And so I knew how important it would be to level up and move into Shopify for endless reasons. But in order for me to grow a team, right, like to have Olga on full time and to work with my husband full time, which happened back in August, which is really exciting, we were going to need to have a super precise, super scalable platform and background that was going to give us the analytics that we needed, that would give us the data points that we were looking for, that we were missing on Shopify, that would allow us to test new market segments without it being a huge ordeal.
Yeah.
And so we launched our Shopify in 8 weeks. We really pressed the gas pedal on Ashley and the basis team. And we were like, if we're going to do this, it needs to be rapid. I already have all the ideas. I have the layouts. I have the templates. I have everything you need. Let's just go. And so they worked wonders to get us up and running in 8 weeks. So when we transitioned from Squarespace to Shopify after 2 years of being on Shopify or Squarespace, it was just incredible to see not only our average order value almost double and now triple. We're seeing triple average order value from January. We're realizing just how impactful it is to serve our audience well. As much as I care about an average order value, I care more about you finding the things that you're looking for on our site and seeing what we offer more than just one stand. We offer the bag and the pegs and the acrylic boxes and the jewelry holders and all of the additional things to make you look successful instead of you have to go here from Vertical Edge and you have to go to like 4 other shops, one of them being Target. I know you. And just offering everything that we possibly could up front was really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, it was a whole transition for you, but there is difficulties that come with transitions. You know, there's always going to be pros and cons. So what was like the biggest thing that was hard for you to transition with on Shopify?
Besides the initial investment, and by no means do you have to invest. Like you don't really have to hire somebody to do your business, to build out your Shopify page. You can totally DIY it. We just didn't have that kind of time.
Right.
We had
time, energy, and focus, or
time. You have 3 options. You can only pick 2. You've got time, you've got energy, and you've got money.
Yeah.
If you can only pick 2, which one was it? At the time, we were able to pull some money from our savings. We were able to pull a little bit of our energy, but we just didn't have the time between me working full-time and Andre working full-time. Actually, he was working double time. So he was working at Acadia, his original first business, second business, maybe third. I don't know. I lost track at this point. And then moving into a Vertical Edge, because at that point he was working Thursdays and Fridays and exiting from his first company. So it was just like, I didn't know. So like when you grow a business, you never know if it's going to be worth it in the aspect of like, if I invest $10K now, what will this return on investment get you? I don't really think like that. And to be honest, it's kind of dumb to think like that sometimes. I'm like, don't always want to think that way because I'm not built as a founder quite yet. I'm not always thinking about the return on investment. I'm thinking about innovation and design and how do I help the most amount of people and how do I just give it my all? And I thought that by investing in a new website, it would help more than it held Vertical Edge back from growing. I'm like, well, we can reach way more people. We can do a lot more plugins. We can offer a lot more. We can finally offer a loyalty program. Right. Oh my gosh, you know, like that's such a game changer for people that keep coming back and supporting Vertical Edge. And then there's the referral program on top of that. So if you love Vertical Edge, you can share it and get points back, which I also think is really exciting. I think that was the investment was the hardest thing for me at the time. But then there's also the learning curve. I was really nervous about learning a new software this late in the game. I was like, man, we've already have a really established brand. We have an established audience. We have people that are really bought into our story and seeing our growth. And we've been so diligent about being transparent about that process that it felt weird not being able to share about the new website as it was happening. Right. And then I was like, well, I can't share about it as soon as we launch because I still have a huge learning curve and I need to learn and see if this is something that I would recommend for other small businesses because it might not be worth it and it might not work. And I had to be okay with that. Right. And so far, so good.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, like looking at Squarespace is a website builder focused on design with e-commerce added on. So Squarespace wasn't created specifically for e-commerce. It's been added on. And so they also don't have as many payment options available as well. That was another thing. But they are getting better. But Shopify was actually created for e-commerce. It was created for you to be able to host your shop and sell.
Succeed at selling.
Exactly. So Shopify may not have as many design options as Squarespace, but it has a lot more integrations that make selling and buying way more efficient. Like they have over 3,000 apps available. It's crazy.
That's it. I feel like they have way more than that. It's ridiculous.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I guess it's cool too because the people that sell and develop the apps are a lot of people like Andre and I who are frustrated that they can't get something that they need. So they build it out and then they offer it to other people. And some of the apps that we have used, now we haven't done like a dry run, like, comparative, like this app compared to this app. We've just used kind of the base products that Base has recommended and they specialized in e-commerce brand building out. So we have a few apps like Smile.io for our loyalty program and our referral program. We use Rebuy for all of our upselling, last chance purchases, cart saving, stuff like that. And then we use Junip for product reviews. Now I'm kind of on the fence about them for a lot of different reasons. We'll see. We'll see if we keep them around. I have to pay quite a bit more if I want the features that I'm looking for. But so far they've done good. I mean, I felt like we had more Etsy reviews than we've gotten reviews on our website, but that might just be lack of integration on our end. We also use a company app called Back in Stock. It's the black circle with the square, with circle, the white circle in the middle. Because apparently there's a lot of back in stock apps. And we have a huge issue with running out of stock. If you've gone on the website lately, we're out of stock on a lot of items. I promise there's more inventory coming in, but I cannot release it until I know an exact ship date. You guys know that we work with a local manufacturer and we do limited runs. We don't order in like thousands and hundreds of thousands of units. Again, because we scale lean, we're working with people here in the U.S. and Washington State. So it's actually really exciting to do that. But we love Back in Stock because it's a really big game changer. It allows people to sign up, automatically lets them know when it's back in stock. I don't have to manually push that like I did on Squarespace. It allows people to pre-order items. We have not taken advantage of that. I think you have to upgrade to use it, but it's not something that we use. We just put a timeline on our drop-down variants for that.
Yeah.
So why is Shopify working so far? So far, it is working really well for us. Now, we did have a few hiccups back in August. The thing with Shopify that you have to work around as an individual is you might plug something into Shopify and it might wreak havoc on your shop and you have to figure out what the heck you did wrong. And either you can pay for it or you can trial and error it. So we trial and errored it for the first time in August. I was plugging in a few 3PLs because Vertical Edge was looking. By Vertical Edge, I mean me, Andre, and Olga. It's just us, you guys. We're not this big, huge, massive team. We we're looking at doing a 3PL, which means third-party logistics. Now, once your company gets big enough and you cannot keep up with the volume and sheer orders, you reach out and start looking at a 3PL. Now, for small businesses, such as people that make candles or mugs, there's this really cool new company out there. I did forget the name of them. I will link it. I actually had a few interviews with them to see if they could do our stuff, but they do small stuff like mugs and candles and pottery and earrings, things that are small, and it's super affordable. It's super doable. So if you are at that stage in your business, let us know. We've got some resources for you. We'll be happy to pass them along. It's a scaling company. There's some in Texas and California and Seattle. I'm sure they've grown quite a bit because I met with them last August. It's been over a year now. I'm sure they've gotten a lot of, capital behind them and a lot of momentum. I'm sure they've expanded into other states. But essentially, you rent out a small warehouse and they fulfill everything for you. They do the customer service for you. They ship everything. They deal with all of that. And you just get to run the front end of your business, which is ideally what Vertical Edge would like to do. But because our items are so big and heavy, we have to have a specialized 3PL. So what happened is I plugged a 3PL system into our back end and it kept saying everything was out of stock, like everything. And I got so many emails from I saw that your fall launch items were in stock and now they're out of stock. I'm like, they were never in stock. There's something wrong. And anyway, it was about a week and a half prior to launch, and this was happening every day for 7 days. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I'm uninstalling everything that I've touched. And so we had to kind of start back from ground zero and build a few things in. But we got it taken care of before our fall launch happened because that was really scary. And we had a lot of people. What was upsetting is that we had like hundreds of people signed up on our wait list to get notified when this item got back in stock. So when it showed that there was stock, but there really wasn't stock, everybody got the email. And anyone that came back and it was out of stock and they didn't put their email back in, we lost that data. So it was really kind of unfortunate from that standpoint. But it's okay. We still had a great fall launch. Still a good one. Yeah, we pulled it off.
Yeah, for sure.
So some of the plans for the website in the future, we will be launching booth consultations and booth mock-ups with yours truly, Olga. She will be taking over some of our customer service calls and helping you guys decide what stands are right for you, as well as supplementing with some booth mock-ups. So you guys have seen us do booth mock-ups for like the Randolph Street Market or small makers or custom designs. And now we're going to be doing that on a much larger scale. And so we will be charging a base rate for that. It's like an extended consultation call. So if you ever have reached out to Vertical Edge and you're like, oh, I need help picking something out, instead of us going back and forth on email, I will shoot you my personal calendar and I'm like, hey, book yourself 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes and that's it. You fill out a robust form with a bunch of preliminary questions. So we don't spend a lot of that time going over the questions. We spend it going over what you truly need and what solutions would be best for you. But now this is going to be 30 to 45 minutes walking you through some tips and tricks specific for your niche and for your booth. We're going to kind of deconstruct it, get a little nitty-gritty, offer honest feedback. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We're pretty raw. We're not rude. We're just raw and straightforward. And then we'll send you some mock-ups, 3 different options with a few different layouts with the details of the stands, which I think are really helpful. We usually just go off of the booth size that you use most often. That's a really big thing that's next for the website. The other thing is our manifesto page. Our manifesto tab is coming along. Yeah, so we have taken a lot of custom orders this year. And a lot of people want something custom, but they don't realize we've already made it and they can order it. They just need to contact us for it. So we're making a manifesto page that can kind of show some of that past project stuff.
Previous designs. Yep.
Yeah. We're also working on a catalog, you guys. Super excited about that. Well, I hoped this episode kind of gave you a little bit of insight into the difference between Etsy and Squarespace and Shopify. We will be linking the previous interview that we did where it was like an hour of in-depth Etsy versus Squarespace, and I just destroyed Etsy. I think Etsy started off with a really good intention, and it kept its mission and its focus forefront and center. I know how easy it is to get lost and lose sight of your mission, and that's why it should be front and center always. You know, we're here and we exist to serve customers, not the other way around.
Like it says, like most successful companies like Facebook, Tesla, Amazon, they're able to grow the way they did because they were thinking long term. They were thinking, how can we create value? And so with Facebook, it's connecting the world. With Amazon, it's creating the greatest customer service. Tesla, it's the transition to sustainable energy. And so with Shopify, the goal is to make e-commerce easier, particularly for merchants. So, you know, even though like the transition is not easy, right? All the integrations, all these apps, it's hard. You know, the learning process, it's a learning curve. At the end of the day, it's going to make the process, like as a growing business, much easier.
Yeah. It's scalable. Yeah. And some people might debate on whether or not they are fulfilling on their mission. That's all perspective based. And we don't always know what's going on kind of behind the scenes and what founders have to struggle with and what owners and co-owners and boards and all the things. Like it's a whole new bureaucracy. We actually have had a little bit of insight into that in the past year, you know, looking at getting some venture deals on the table. And it's just been a very interesting insight into a world that I never even considered or thought of. And so you as a handicraft business, you know, when you start to scale and when you want to go to that next phase, it's important to understand what platform is going to get you there, who's going to give you the analytics that you need. It's very much are you driving business to Etsy or is Etsy driving business to you?
Right.
Same with Squarespace or Shopify. You need to really dig your heels in and ask yourself what you have the time, energy, and resources to devote to each one. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I did promise a little sneak preview into our second sale. So here it is. We have already sent out emails for our Pacific Northwest locals, people in Washington and Oregon. I didn't do Idaho or Montana because I thought that'd be a bit of a stretch and we have a bigger following in Portland. So if you are local, our warehouse is open this Friday for our first ever in-person sale in our warehouse. We actually have a warehouse. It's not like you're going to show up at my garage, okay? And it's really exciting. We're going to have everything just out. We're going to be taking pictures of everything, getting everything documented for the website sale. We will be launching. So like the locals get first dibs, okay? Because they don't have to pay for shipping.
They're right here.
So they get first dibs on this Friday, the 23rd. And then next Friday, the 30th, we will be launching our second sale open to the public at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We don't do any minute or second earlier or later because it sells out in literally 1 hour.
It sells out.
It is crazy ridiculous. We have 75 SKUs available for purchase. Plus, I'm sure more because we got some return boxes with small damages. So what is the second sale? Every half year, we rack up prototypes, different materials, finished, unfinished, bamboo, different colors. This year, we have a ton of prototypes from our fall launch. I'm so ready to get rid of them. What we do not just throw them away. We don't just give them away. We allow our customers who've been following the process for a while to get kind of first dibs on prototype stuff. All of it's functional. All of it works. Some of it needs a little bit of love. Nothing's crazy though. Nothing's like, I wouldn't use that myself.
Broken.
Yeah. Some of the stands are like parts and pieces. Some of them are tiger stripes. I know we've got a huge following for people that love the tiger stripe stuff. We've got, I think there's a stadium, a trio, and a few round collection smalls with tiger stripes. We have some of the old jumbos. All of the 90 degrees we decommissioned and put them in the second sale. We've got about 20 of those. We have a lot of double-sided, just small units, which are kind of fun. And then I think that wraps it up. We're hoping to sell most of it in our in-person sale. We'll see. So if you're local, you better come hang out with us because you'll get all the deals. We'll just send you home with all of it. That being said, we will be back here next Wednesday for the vertical. I think we're going to dive into some visual merchandising tips to get you guys all ready for your holiday markets. I think that is a topic that will be very helpful and very timing appropriate.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in. We will
Thank
see you next Wednesday. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the comments and we will get back to you. Bye.
Bye.